Welcome to the Well-ish podcast, sponsored by Iowa Specialty Hospital, where real life meets better health. We're your hosts. I'm Derek.
I'm Anthony.
Let's dive in. Welcome in to the Well-ish podcast. Super excited to be back with you here. I'm Derek.
I'm Anthony.
And we're your hosts.
Let's do it.
You can see that we have a new table. We're very excited about our new table. So if you've been watching us since day one, you can see that we've kind of shifted things around, mixed things up. We're super excited about the new setup. Well, halfway new setup. Anthony's been working really hard on it here in studio, which is super fun. So shout out to Iowa Specialty Hospitals for hooking us up with a lot of this equipment and making sure we have everything we need for this. So.
Yeah.
Got to give them a shout out here.
Absolutely.
Obviously, title sponsor, right?
Yeah. The Iowa Specialty Hospitals.
Exactly.
Thank you for your support. Yeah, you like the backdrop? I painted that myself.
Gee, wow, so talented.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's another thing. Keep working hard, learn new skills. Because one day you too can look out a window.
Yeah. We really were moving up in this world,
Right?
Yeah, started and. Actually, I'm not going to talk about where we started, but we didn't have any windows back then.
No windows, and now we got windows. Crazy. Yeah. Well, again, thanks for tuning in. Today, we're super excited about this one. We are going to spend time talking today about nutrition and exercise.
Yeah.
And maybe even a little bit of nutrition and sport too. I think those kind of go hand in hand, and for that. Very different. Some people exercise for health. Some people for performance. Obviously, those can be very different types of fueling. If you're putting, put nutrition into the terms of fueling your body, but I think that's gonna be a fun topic for us today.
Yeah, I agree. I think that little phrase you use, fueling your body, fueling your performance, is going to be key here, right? I do think that there's not too much of a difference whether or not you're exercising for health or exercising for sport. Now it kind of matters, like whether you're a professional athlete versus just maybe like a recreational athlete, right? If you're training for 5Ks, 10Ks, marathons on your own, or sand volleyball in the summers,
sure,
right? Versus like CrossFit, whatever. It's all performance at the end of the day. So I think fueling your performance, I love that. Let's
do you? Yeah, and I have a question right away that I just thought about.
Okay.
So obviously, if you've watched any episodes so far, you know that we're both dietitians and we work with those who are trying to maybe lose weight. That's kind of normally what we do. Exercise, fueling your body, and weight loss. Like, how do those go kind of hand in hand just to jump in and get started? What do you think?
Yeah, when it comes, especially when you throw in weight loss, I think it makes it a little bit more complicated. But the way I like to think about it is like breaking it down into a framework, right? So you still want to have the dietary plan framework. What I mean by that is, if you're eating 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you want to keep that as consistent as possible. And then around those times of whether it's exercise, whether it's performance, whether it's, long meeting days, whatever the case is, that's where we start to throw in like the extra little tidbits of nutrition. If you have that base, that foundation then we can kind of also still fuel those high intensity points, right? So in terms of weight loss, if you want to put I'm just gonna throw out some random calories there to kind of help people wrap their head around it. Let's say someone needs 1,800 calories a day, but just in general, just like maintain weight. So let's say they want to go down to 1,500 so they can lose some weight, a little bit of weight. Then throughout those meals, maybe you're trying to get 1,200 calories, right? So let's say breakfast is 500, lunch is 400, and then what would that leave left? 300 for dinner. And then with snacks in there, we got to fill in the gaps. So make sure you get 300 calories for the 1,500 calories, right?
Sure.
So that's kind of like what I'm talking about when you break it down that way.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's important to note that there's still, like you said, that like nutrition framework. And so when we're thinking about weight loss plus exercise, which that's what we promote, right? I mean, that kind of that physical activity is so important for your health.
Yeah.
And we're going to look at it today through the lens of nutrition, right? So we'll stay there with it for the most part, but having that consistent fuel in your body, even if it's less than what we would consider maintenance calories, like that scaffolding that you're building on, the breakfast, lunch, that's happening all the time, no matter what you're doing, right? So it's not turning into, all right, I have, like, let's say, like you said, let's use your numbers. 1,500 calories is my weight loss calorie number,
Yep.
right? I'm gonna have 2 meals of a, 500 a piece, and then I'm gonna have a 500 calorie protein shake right after my workout, but then skip dinner, right? Like that's throwing your body into a, like, because who knows when your workout was, right? And that's asking your body to do a lot of different things rather than being consistent with the nutrition that it's expecting. Right. So I think that's part of it. And then I think the habit is a big part of that too, right? And so if we start pulling random meals out and trying to say, hey, I'm just gonna have a protein shake, or I'm just gonna do this, or whatever it might be, to fuel my body after my workout or before my workout, now now all of a sudden we're breaking habits that we were trying to establish, where once we get to a healthy weight, we want those habits established. So there's a lot of things going into that. But I think the most important part that you mentioned was just like that consistent framework, that scaffolding of breakfast, lunch, dinner, be consistent with the nutrition, and then other parts get sprinkled in.
Yeah, in terms again, we're really using that like weight loss as guiding this conversation. So more likely than not, weight loss insinuates that you're changing something, right?
Mhm.
So therefore, not having like some sort of like consistent foundation or like framework is going to make it very challenging. I often hear, "Well, I just need to be meal planning more." And a lot of times people are meal planning, they just think that they aren't meal planning right. And maybe they aren't, but it's less about like what they already are doing and more about what can we be doing and like how do you change that just slightly.
Mhm.
So don't like most people overthink it and you don't need to be overthinking this stuff. Um, with that framework, you're gonna know what's coming up and like what what you just had, what's coming up, and then where maybe you can fill in the gaps as needed. And it's less of a like mental toll as well, right? Because then you aren't like getting home at I don't know 6:30 p.m. and trying to figure out what to do, but you have a kid crying over here, or like you're trying to rush so you can watch this show, and you're really hungry throughout all this as well. Just knowing a little bit more about what each day is going to look like, so that way it gives you that little bit of um, what's the word I'm looking for? Just a little bit of
Consistency.
consistency, but um, gosh, I can't think of the word. Like just feeling good about what choice you're going to make, and also
Yeah.
understanding that it might not be the best one just because of the circumstance of the day.
For sure. No, yeah, I think the simpler you can make it, the better things tend to be.
Yeah.
Um, I was just having a conversation yesterday with someone about introducing new recipes into their week, right? And we were talking, and it dawned on me. I was like, so often when someone is trying to add new recipes or do something new, they completely abandon what they were doing before, the things that we'd already worked on, right? Where it's like we're trying to establish good protein habits, good fiber habits, like eating fruits and vegetables and drinking water and all these things. And so we've kind of established these these habits, these things that we like have them doing every day. And then they're like, all right, I'm getting bored of what I'm doing. I want to completely change all the food that I'm having. And it's like, okay, what if we just picked one day and tried new recipes that day, right? And so that's kind of my suggestion when it comes to fueling your body for your workouts. Like there's so many I think it's really easy to think that, oh, I'm just changing one habit. I'm adding a workout habit. Okay, you're adding a workout habit, and you're trying to change your nutrition at the same time, and also what thing is disappearing from your day because now you're exercising daily. Like there's more to it, right? And I don't say that to overwhelm people, just to say it's okay to take it slow and change one thing at a time. Add your workout, see how that goes, right? If you realize that's going well, but you think, "Hey, you know what? I think I could have a little more energy when I work out." All right, perfect. Maybe that's where we look at the nutrition and add a little snack an hour before and see if that impacts it, right? Have something that you know makes your stomach feel good that can, and then see how that impacts your workout. Just do it once. Don't say, all right, I'm gonna do a bunch of research and say this is what it's supposed to be. No, it's you, right? It's your fuel, it's your body. Like I think that's super important to remember when you're making these changes is just make one little one at a time and then see how it makes you feel. Makes you feel good, stick with it. If it doesn't, don't, right? Like, I
Mhm.
think that's important to remember.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we maybe go too far down this conversation, let's talk about what we think performance means.
Yeah.
Because we mentioned it or a little bit at the start of this conversation, but it's not just about like that competition, right?
Yeah.
It's about the daily physical activity routine you have, or,
Mhm.
maybe you have that down. Maybe you're doing great with like fueling your workout in the morning or in the evening, whatever the case is, but you just start feeling a little sluggish throughout the day. Especially during like those meetings after in the afternoon, like what can we do to be feeling those better too? Maybe that goes back to properly feeling that exercise,
Mhm.
right? So performance can has like a wide it's it can encompass a lot of different things,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't have to just be that
Yeah.
exercise routine.
Absolutely. I think, oh gosh, who was it? Was it, was it Benjamin Franklin? I think I was reading something about Ben Franklin, and he was talking about no, Warren Buffett. That's who it was. Warren Buffett. So Warren Buffett was talking about getting enough rest, right? Enough rest and eating enough, getting enough fuel. And if you have read about Warren Buffett, I don't think his diet is great. So his was more about rest, but I'm using the performance idea. And for him, it's really important to him that he can read really effectively. He needs to be able to be focused, to be able to read, to comprehend what he's reading, because that's what his life is consists of, right? It's super important that a guy like Warren Buffett can read articles and read, mission statements of companies that he wants to buy, whatever that looks like, right? And I know he's someone who, from what I've read about him, he's someone who reads a lot of books to improve his own life, right? That's something that he does a lot of. And so for him, reading is performance. And so I think, like you mentioned, afternoon meetings, that also can count as performance. Like fueling, like we want you should feel good like all day. And if you're not, then maybe a small change could be appropriate. And so I just wanted to bring that up. Like we talked about, obviously, we're talking about exercise a little more in this, but like performance, like you said, it could be a meeting, could be reading a book, could be um, doing I don't know if you're someone who works in a lab doing chemistry, right? That's your job. Perfect. That's definitely performance. Accurately measuring things. If you work in a kitchen, putting out dishes, making sure that you're getting that food prepared in the correct way. Like all of that is performance, and so fueling that performance is important.
Yeah. Yeah, because the whole point is honestly like coming back the next day ready to go,
Mm-hmm.
right? Being able to recover well, and that's why we want to be feeling
Yeah.
properly.
Yeah.
So I like that a lot. Yeah, I'm reading that book right now, right? The Snowball. It's
Oh,
like 860 pages. I'm a, I've, I'm almost 3/4 of the way through, but it's still like 600
how long?
pages
How
in.
long is it taking you to get 3/4?
Oh, I'm a slow reader. It's been a long time. I don't even want to try and think about how long I've been on this book for.
See, that's one that like so I'm a library guy,
Oh
right?
yeah.
I've started really getting into that and like, yeah, I get 3 weeks to read the books that I check out at the library. Um that one, I don't know how you'd check that out at the library and then like you just renew,
Yeah, you wouldn't be able
renew.
to. Thankfully, I got this one from a friend who doesn't want it back. So,
It's like, no, take it. I don't want that one anymore. It's too
yeah,
much.
it's been a solid 3 months, I would say.
Yeah.
Solid two, coming up on three probably. But
There
anyway,
you go. Good
yeah,
practice and perseverance.
yeah, for real, yeah.
Sometimes you got to practice
To
those
be
things.
fair, I've read a couple in between there too.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Nothing wrong with that. A
yeah,
couple projects going on at once.
yeah. There you go. Anyway,
But yeah, so I think, on the topic of recovery, so let's kind of get into it like a little bit, like specifically maybe some of the things that we've tried and experienced when it comes to
yeah,
fueling exercise, right? So I'll just use my own experience first. And I've got a couple of very distinct moments where I have had really, really good experiences with fueling my body for a workout. Um, one happened very recently. I would say it's for, and as we've talked about before, my exercise journey has been up and down, right? I'm always kind of, I feel like I can relate to people who are like kind of always restarting a little bit. And I'm on a really good stretch right now and I feel awesome about it. So it's super fun.
That's good, man.
Um, and so recently I had I like to go grocery shopping on Friday afternoons. That's when I'll stop at the grocery store on the way home from work. Super easy. And I like to get myself a little chocolate milk. It's just my treat. It's one of my favorite things. And I get it on Friday afternoons when I'm grocery shopping. So I had that and I recently, like about a month ago, just kind of started saying, you know what, I kind of like having a Friday afternoon run. That's just a good time for me. I like to go out on Friday afternoons. I know some people say, "Hey, Friday afternoon, I'm done. I don't want to." I like it. I feel like it's a good way to break up between my work week and then I go for my run. I can kind of just mentally clear out anything that I was thinking about and then I'm just ready for the weekend and able to kind of just be present at home and relax and stuff. So I went for a run right after I had this chocolate milk and I've found that not right after, like an hour or so. And it's awesome. Like, I feel great, right? And it was like, okay, there it is, like, walking the walk. The things that I talk about, the things that I've learned about, right? And it lined up for me on accident,
Mm.
and I'll never go back, right? It's like one of those things, like, I gotta have something to fuel that workout, and for me, I've found that the chocolate milk, a little one, like, it's like a little carton. It's all not a ton, right? So, like, what is that? Like 6 ounces, 8 ounces, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think 8.
Yeah. So, like, 1 cup works great, and, like, an hour before, and it's perfect for me
Yeah.
in that feel like, I feel good, it's just I'm awake, I feel awesome, um, but that's kind of been my recent experience with properly fueling a workout,
Mhm.
kind
What
of like
about that chocolate milk is feeling it?
yeah, so chocolate milk, is gonna have not obviously, I shouldn't say that, right? Chocolate milk is, um, protein, about what is it, 8 grams of 12 grams of protein per I don't know, 8 or I think it's 12 per 8 ounces.
8.
Is it
8 or
8?
so, yeah.
8 so 8 grams of protein per 8 ounce, so a little bit of protein, and then a little bit of fat. I like to do, like, 2% milk, so it's, like, I think 5 grams of fat,
Mhm.
and then chocolate milk, specifically, has more carbohydrates than like, a white milk would. Um, and so I think it's that little bit of protein, little bit of fat. Those 2 things maybe help to kind of not have the carbohydrates hit immediately, but that's why I think that hour is probably why, and then those carbs really fuel my workout, gets me going, gives me the energy I need to have a good run.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, carbohydrates here, aren't the devil, right?
no, not at
They're
all.
super helpful,
Yeah.
because the carbohydrates are fueling the muscles and also your brain, right? Keep your brain active. I mean, the
Yup.
primary fuel source of your brain is
Carbs.
carbohydrate,
Yes,
right?
sir.
And same thing with your muscles. And then that fat, yeah, is a slow
Mhm.
processing down to carbohydrates, but
A little bit.
it's yeah,
Not a ton, but a
you
little
can
bit.
use it maybe later on.
Mhm.
And of course, the protein is just gonna help them with their muscles. Especially later on in the day. I think that protein prior to your exercise is a little bit more important, right? It wasn't a ton. It's not a huge source of protein, but it's giving you just a little bit because your muscles and body have been working already for the day, right? Um, we just had a guy walk by. That's awesome.
Can you tell this is, not a painting?
Um, But yeah, so having that well-rounded, especially in
Mhm.
the afternoon, is a good source of fuel prior
Yeah,
to your workout. Yeah,
yeah.
and it's interesting. I was actually expecting you to say it wasn't a good
Oh, really?
combination, just because I often hear like dairy. Some people just don't really process dairy
Mm.
very well,
Yeah,
right? So,
yeah.
but clearly you do.
I think I do well
Yeah,
with it, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And it's nothing. It's just we don't. Not everyone
Mhm.
has the proper enzymes to really like feel good with that. So,
Which is everybody's different, right? And so
absolutely.
that's where, like, I could say that, where I'm like, "Hey, chocolate milk it's great for me. It
Hmm.
might not be for you, so if you try it and you're like, 'Hey, that did not help,' then don't have it again."
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to just, like, continue hit like, banging your head against the wall trying to figure out, like, why isn't this working? It works for him. Well, because I'm different than you, right?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
we're not the same person. So
Yeah.
find your thing.
Yeah. And the other thing too that I add there, 'cause we didn't like talk about the calories in it. It's probably
Mhm.
what 100, 120 calories,
It's like
140,
because with the yeah, like I think it's like like 140,
140,
150, something
150.
like
Yeah.
that. A
So it's
little
not like
extra sugar than
yeah.
a normal cup of milk. So
So it's not a huge like bump of calories
no,
either, but
no.
it's just enough to kind of,
Hmm.
like you said, get you ready to go and, start your workout well and
Yeah,
get to the end of it. Yeah.
yeah.
That's awesome. What was the other example?
Other example was in like during a race. Like
Mm,
so I was running a half marathon.
mm.
And I think I've told you about this
Yeah, yeah,
before,
yeah.
but this was the first time I'd ever really, and this was probably 6 years ago now at this point, coming up on. This was the first time I'd ever experienced how nutrition directly impacted how I felt. I was about halfway through the half marathon, and I hadn't really done any nutrition in my training at all, which you should. You should practice doing those things so that way you know what makes you feel good and what doesn't. Right? I got lucky with that part. Um, but it was just a like goo, I think was what it was. Was there's a lot of brands out there of things to
Hmm.
try, and so if
It was a
one,
gel, running gel.
yeah, running gel.
Yep.
So mix them around, see what makes you feel good. But this was basically just chocolate pudding, right? And so about 6 miles in, I think is where it was. Did that over the next half mile, felt the same, and then all of a sudden felt awesome. And it was, and like I'd paced it in a way that was very deliberate. Like I hadn't gone out super fast because it was my first half marathon. I didn't want to go crazy at the beginning of it and
Hmm.
then have a terrible time at the end, right?
Hmm.
So that was because I wanted to have fun. I was out there, I was trying to enjoy it, and I wanted to make it a good experience. And so that was super important, I think, too, that I was able to let my body kind of get into it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think I I pretty much increased my pace once I took the my chocolate pudding. Um, like I think I knocked like a minute and a half or 2 minutes off of my mile pace for the next
Dang.
seven
That's
miles.
significant.
Like clearly, like obviously I could have gone faster,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
leading
yeah.
up to it.
Yeah.
But I felt so good. It was wild. It was crazy. And because I'd never done anything like that. So I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah,
And I got
sure.
to the end of the race. And I'm like, I could have kept, like, I had more.
You're
Like,
ready
I
to
could have
go.
just kept going.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was a really cool experience. And so I think that's one of those things. It's like, once you start to have those moments where it's like, oh, that's how it feels if I'm doing it the right way.
Mhm.
It's fun. Like, it was just fun. I was just passing people, feeling good, waving at the crowd. Like, I
Yeah.
felt great. It was super fun. So,
Yeah, and not to get too much in the weeds, but when you're talking about like cardio like that, I'm assuming your heart rate was at a level like in that first half where you're burning primarily fat and not much
mm,
carbohydrates. Like you're still burning carbohydrates and fat,
yeah,
right? But then once you kind of hit that threshold where the fat was transitioning to carbohydrates, it was probably pretty close to where you took in those
sure.
carbohydrates, and it just kind of boosted,
Yeah.
your muscle
Yeah. It's like
intake.
hitting
Yeah.
NOS and like Fast and
Yeah,
Furious,
yeah, yeah,
know?
and that's super common. I mean, that's great for cardio exercise, and even we'll talk about strength training too. But
Hmm.
you did that like very well, and like you said, your GI system took it in just
Handled
fine.
it. And
That's
yeah.
usually the biggest issue is that
Hmm.
like people's stomachs just aren't used to that.
Yeah. Which is why you should practice.
Yeah,
Like, if you got a race coming up, like,
or dehydration
yeah,
too, because that
yeah,
can help. Yeah, or
yeah.
cause issues.
I
Yeah.
will say it was the perfect storm for that race. It was raining, and it was the race officially actually got canceled halfway through it.
Oh, is that
And
because of the
so
weather?
because of the weather, and so they were like there were police officers standing like every half mile or so saying, "Get off the course, get off the course." No one was doing it
I mean,
because
yeah,
we
you're.
were already there. It's like the race is literally painted on the ground. Like, I'm allowed to run. Like, you
Mhm.
can't stop me from running. And
Mhm.
so when we got there, so we just started hearing from race officials like, "Hey, make sure your watch is running. Make sure your watch is running because our time is off." Like, because they had to turn their time off at the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
But they already had all this stuff down there at the finish line, and so the music was still on, and they just had the official timer had been
Yeah.
turned off because the race was canceled.
That's a pretty cool first half marathon. I'm
It was
not gonna
fun.
lie. You know,
Yeah.
a little bit of rain, a little bit of chaos,
Oh, it was a great
and also you
experience.
felt awesome in the
Yeah.
second half.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and I guess, you know, clearly, I don't know if it's clear, but I run a lot too. If you listen to any of these other
Big runner. Big
episodes,
guy. Big
yeah.
running guy.
So I take in carbohydrates as well. So when you talk about those gels, I mean, they really are like rocket fuel, especially some of
Yeah.
those that have like caffeine in
Yeah.
them. Oh, it's like liquid gold.
So this is what I wanted to get to next is let's talk about how you fuel. And obviously you were going there, but I have questions, right? So do you fuel consistently just during a training run?
Yeah. Yeah. If you listen to our habits, I mean, I'm kind of a nut. I'm not gonna lie, right? So I do.
No, I mean I think you're someone who you are a runner, right? I
No,
think
I
that's
know, I know.
important to
Yeah,
say, right?
yeah,
Like you take the steps. You've got
yeah,
you're someone who's like that's just your sport that you enjoy, right?
yeah,
So
absolutely.
you got new shoes when you need them. You're fueling.
Yeah.
You're participating in races because you like it. So
No, yeah, I know. The point is that like during training runs, yeah, I definitely do take in fuel. And I take it pretty methodically because I want to set myself up so the next day I'm ready to go again, and then the next day I'm ready to go again, and that's really the purpose of it.
yeah,
And then part of it also is just making sure that my stomach continues to be like adapted to that intake because again, if you aren't used to that,
hmm
and if you're increasing your intensity again on a race day, and then also trying to throw in maybe like some sort of nutrition that you aren't used to, like that's just a
yeah.
recipe for disaster. It can come out of both ends, and you don't want to, and you don't want to just take that gamble. But anyway,
Welcome to the world of running, folks. That's
yeah.
what it's about.
uh, so when I'm going through like a typical week, I'm usually feeling prior to my run every morning. And then depending on the day, I will also take in fuel throughout the workout. So
Okay,
usually 2 to 3 times a week, I'm taking fuel in throughout the workout as well.
sure. Just on your
And
kind of your longer runs, more
yeah,
so.
more so once I start getting above like 70 to 80 minutes in a run, and then the intensity matters as well too. So I could
Oh,
be doing
interesting.
like a 70-minute or like a 65-minute workout where the intensity is high, and I will take in carbohydrates throughout that because that way when I'm finishing I can also take some after, and just make sure that I'm keeping my carbohydrate stores as high as I can, so I'm not just like
Yeah.
depleting my glycogen, which is that the fuel storage source, right? So when you take in carbohydrates, they get stored into your muscles and into your liver as glycogen, and then once you start exercising, you deplete that. So I take in carbohydrates, like I said, depending on the workout, somewhere in the ballpark of at a minimum 65 to 70 grams per hour.
Mm,
And then up to, I mean, I've been regularly hitting about 90 to 95 grams an hour.
yeah.
So, you know, if you do a 2 hour run, you're looking at close to 200 grams of
Yeah.
carbohydrates.
I think so. Like break that down like what that looks like in terms of food, right?
Sure.
Like what are you eating?
Well, so this isn't like, you got to remember the purpose. And I like to preface this because like the purpose of taking in fuel during these exercise activities
Mhm.
is really just to fuel that run and that
Mhm.
performance, right? So I'm taking in pure carbohydrates
Yeah.
in the form of either glucose, well, typically either sucrose, which is fructose and glucose,
Mhm.
um, and then also like maltodextrin, which all those fancy words is literally just basically table sugar
Mhm.
mixed with a little bit of water, right? And I've actually been making my own recently, so I haven't been buying gels, I've been making my own.
Okay.
So I throw in a little bit of salt as well to get some sodium.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, that's what it is. So I I break it up. Like I don't just take in 95 at 1 hour, right? Or 60 grams at 1 hour. I split it up throughout that run. So that way I'm making sure my gut can tolerate it. I'm making sure I'm kind of spreading it evenly. So I
Mhm.
kind of get that burst like you did, just more consistently.
Yeah.
Because something that you mentioned there, and I don't know if you quite caught that, was you didn't feel it right away.
Mhm.
It took a little bit for your body to kind of
Well, digest it.
digest it and then
Yeah.
absorb it. But in retrospect, I mean, 5 to 8 minutes of or however long it took for that to actually hit isn't a ton of time. That's because liquid glucose is absorbed rapidly, right? So
Mhm.
once it goes through that digestive
Yeah.
system, it's being absorbed like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I want to point something out here that I think is important. If you heard his little mini recipe there that he just gave you, what does that sound very similar to? All of your sports drinks, right? And so I think it's important that do you have your homemade recipe when you're just hanging out?
No.
No,
No.
right? I think
Yeah.
that's really important to remember. That's what those sports drinks are for,
Yeah.
right? And I don't want to say any brands, but
Yep.
like that's what those are meant for, is
Yep.
for in performance moments,
Yeah.
right? And so when we're like if you're exercising or something like that, and also you're not drinking one that's like 26 ounces, right? Like it's and it might end up being something like that over the course of your 2-hour run,
Yeah.
right? But it's not like you're doing that in 15 minutes, which I feel like is what happens with the people a lot. So I just want to me that like it was like, oh, you're talking about mixing up a sports drink of sorts.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure people understand that's what those are for.
No, absolutely. And I mean, that's a great point because I often talk with athletes and but feeling prior to the workout.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna use my example and someone like a different example is like I wake up early and I'm out the door within like 30 to 40 minutes of waking,
Mhm.
right? So in order to get, I usually try to get about 40 to, depending on the type of workout, up to 60 grams prior to leaving the door.
Yeah.
Um, but to get, in order to get 40 grams of carbohydrates, you got to eat a substantial amount of like real food. So
Yeah.
that's where actually I lean towards that sports drink. So that's when I am taking in a sports drink. I have
Okay.
like Gatorade powder.
Yeah.
Or yeah, it doesn't matter.
It
And I
doesn't
just
matter.
put it
It
into the
doesn't
water,
matter.
shake it up, and I
Yeah.
drink it. But I also get 20 ounces of fluid with that too. So I'm also
Yeah.
hydrating and getting some carbohydrates. But there's a purpose to it.
Mhm.
Now, when it comes to like race day or like weekends and or anyone else that I'm counseling and they have more time to wake up before like I usually try to get say a minimum of 60 minutes. Then I'll be looking more towards like whole foods. Like, can we
Yeah.
get like either some oats, right? Can you have some oatmeal? Can we do maybe some whole wheat toast with a little bit of peanut butter, right?
Mhm.
Give you a little bit more of a well-rounded snack
Yeah.
prior to that. Um, but it really comes down to, how much time do you have? What is the purpose of that fuel?
Yeah.
And is it doing the job, right?
Yeah.
Like if I was just taking that and going for, um, a very, very easy walk, that would make no sense.
Yeah.
I can go on a walk fasted. There's my heart rate doesn't get up very high. My body's very good about like, adjusting and using prior fuel, right? So when you take these things for performance, I really try and focus on a couple of words, and that's purpose and intention, right?
Mhm.
So what's the purpose of the fuel and are you taking it intentionally?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think to kind of bring it back to what we were talking about at the beginning, like those moments of you're fueling your workout and all of that, like do you also then like when you get back have a breakfast of some sort?
Yeah. I mean, I'll use this morning as an example. So I did that on my field before my run, and then I went for
Mhm.
a run and I actually did some strength training afterward.
Nice.
So before I even went into strength training, I took in um, a little snack as well, a little bar, because I wanted to get some carbohydrates in, so that way I would have a better performance for my strength training,
Yeah.
right? Because something that I mentioned when you get to, and maybe it's a good transition, is that when you're also working your muscles and doing high strength activities, you need to be like feeling with some carbs,
Mhm.
and then afterwards you can refuel and rebuild with protein and fat and
Yeah.
also carbohydrates. But that's a good point. Yeah. So when I finish my strength training, then I'm not very good about getting within my 30-minute window. Everyone talks about that 30-minute window post
Yeah.
exercise, but within 60 minutes, I for sure get
Sure.
in. I pretty consistently have a smoothie that's high protein, adequate fat, and then a relatively moderate carbohydrate intake
Yeah.
and a high fiber too.
Yeah.
So that's when I throw in the fiber sources
Mhm.
is post exercise, just because like when you take in fiber prior to, sometimes, well, one, you need more water to digest that, and two, it can cause some GI distress as well. So I steer clear of fiber prior to working out, but afterwards I'm pumping in fiber, pumping in protein,
Yeah.
and all those good stuff.
So I think it comes back to and like that's something that you would have on a normal day if you or not a normal day. Normal day for you is usually going for that workout in the morning, but
Mhm.
on a day that you didn't exercise, would you still have that smoothie?
Absolutely. So I'd cut out all those carbohydrates
Yeah.
prior to.
Yeah.
I usually throw an espresso in somewhere in there too. So I'll
Sure.
probably still have my espresso, but
Mhm.
with that smoothie.
Yeah.
That's a good example would be like if that was a weekday, I would do the smoothie for sure. If it was a weekend, then I'd probably have more of a solid food. The
Mm-hmm.
smoothie is just kind of easy, quick, and easy for me to make.
Get
I
out
have
the
the
door.
recipe down. Yeah,
Yeah.
get in, get out the door. Um, but if I have more time, then I'll make it more. But I cut out all the other stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of calories. That's a lot
Yeah.
of unnecessary carbohydrate intake.
Yeah.
Honestly, if I'm not doing that type of work.
And so my super long way of getting to this point is there's the framework, the scaffolding, right? Like that smoothie, that breakfast, that's where your framework starts. Everything else was just all predicated on like I'm getting a like you wouldn't have if you weren't going to strength train, you wouldn't have that extra bar, right? Like all that stuff is fueling your exercise on purpose because you want to be able to give your body the best stimulus possible, right? I think that's something that's easily forgotten in especially in our line of work where we work a lot with weight loss is that providing awesome stimulus to your body can be super super impactful on your weight as well as reducing calories, right? So if you're going out and telling your body, "Hey, I need you to be able to run 5 miles and I need you to be able to do it fast." It will at some point adapt if you're fueling it properly. If
Yep.
you're never giving it what it needs to go out and do that, it's going to just be in this constant mode of, "Oh my, what are we doing? This
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
horrible." Right? But if you can go out and make it feel decent, feel good, it will adapt and get better at it, right? Because
Sure.
it wants to improve. And so along with that, your body will realize, hey, if we if if we utilize some of this fat that we have or this fuel that we have stored as fat, that's going to help make this easier,
Yep.
right? And so I think providing good stimulus. Strength training is another one, right? If we're thinking in the terms of weight loss, maybe there is a little bit of like we're going to use fat for fuel. There's a lot of I think that there's some of that, right?
Yeah.
But especially as we get into strength training, your body doesn't do a great job. It almost happens too fast, right? You can't you have a hard time doing enough reps to start using fat for fuel in a strength training setting,
Yeah.
right? Because it's the energy systems just they don't that doesn't work. It doesn't
Yep.
jive that way. So I think that's super important that you fuel those things to make them feel good to provide awesome stimulus to your body.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I think I want to transition to a couple of things. Like, let's talk about, you know, I want to talk about morning workouts
Yeah.
primarily,
Hmm.
like especially with strength training, and then like a CrossFit or High Rocks. High Rocks is pretty popular right now. You heard of High Rocks
I
before?
don't think I have.
It's I don't. I'm not gonna be. I'm gonna butcher this, but I'm gonna try to explain it a little bit.
Hmm.
My understanding, it's similar to like CrossFit, just like a routine, high intensity workout that you
Okay.
go
Yeah.
through, right? So
Yeah.
it's cross IROX, kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
But heart rate's high. You're moving through different cardio and strength
Mhm.
exercises, endurance, right?
Yeah.
And then just regular strength training where we can probably split that to like just not really getting your heart rate high, kind of walking through the
Sure.
motions and exercises versus like really trying to build muscle. Okay. But the other part I want to throw into that to kind of like mix it up a little bit is also fasted
Yeah.
training versus um like versus fed, right?
Mhm.
Because I think you made a good point there where sometimes fasted exercise does serve a pretty good purpose where you are just trying to, burn the fat as fuel because
Mhm.
you aren't ingesting anything. So
Yeah.
your body will automatically use what it has within itself to kind of fuel that, right? It's still
Mhm.
going to break it down your fat to eventually get down to a source of
Yeah.
glucose or,
Sure.
carbohydrate to fuel your muscles. Um, so with that, let's talk about first just fasted
Mhm.
exercise. For let's just stick with strength training. So you're just going in there and just doing a regular workout. What would you recommend to a patient or to an individual? How to fuel that?
How to fuel that workout?
Yeah.
It's not overly different from running,
Hmm.
right? I think there is a little bit of a place for maybe a little more protein because we're not as worried about some of the GI distress if you're going in and not doing something like a CrossFit, right? I think it is really important that number 1, you do the thing that makes you feel good, right? But at the same time, when you're going in and lifting weights, that's not the moment that you're getting stronger. I think it's really important that all you're doing, and when you're lifting weights or you're doing some sort of strength training, resistance bands, whatever it might be, that's not the moment that you are getting physically stronger. Mentally, maybe, absolutely. I think there's a big part of that. But all you're doing at that point is breaking muscle down, right? You're giving it stimulus. You're telling it, no, I need you to be better. Think about if you've ever broken a bone, um, what is usually found is that that bone grows back a little bit stronger than it was before because your body says, "Oh, we don't want to do that again." It's the same kind of premise with weightlifting is if you push yourself to the point of I keep doing this like I'm doing a little bit of a bench press. But if you're pushing yourself to the point of like fatigue, you're pushing yourself to the point of failure sometimes, like you're telling your body, I need you to get stronger. Like you're providing it with a stimulus to do so. And there is some slight muscle damage, muscle fiber damage that occurs, right? So if you're going in a fasted state, in an unfed state, and you're just keep telling your body, keep going, keep going, keep going, it starts trying to find fuel from wherever it can. And yes, fat could be some of that, but it's also going to start stealing from muscle as well, right? It's doing anything it can to keep you moving, and so you have to be very careful with that. So if you provide energy in the form of carbohydrate, maybe a little bit of pre-workout protein, not enough to get an upset stomach, but enough to put something in your body and fuel that workout. Now your body doesn't have to steal as much from your muscle, right? It's not digging into that protein from your muscle to find energy. It can leave that alone because it had a little extra going into it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And that's where, just to build on that example, that 30-minute window probably plays more of a role than if you were in a fed state, right? So if you're
Probably.
fasted exercising, like strength training, which
Mm-hmm.
is totally doable, that's where you'd really probably want to hit that stimulus of protein right after with a little bit of carbohydrate to kind of refuel those glycogen stores,
Yeah.
right? Something that's like not well talked about is that, your body's going to prioritize storing carbs before protein. So just that's why chocolate milk is a good recovery drink, is because it has that little bit of carbohydrates. So that way, most of that protein is actually being utilized for muscle protein synthesis inside that muscle.
Yeah.
No, I think that was a good explanation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and I think you do see a little bit of difference, um, in, I would say, the importance of fueling with carbohydrate when you think about like a CrossFit or something that's a little more high intensity like that.
Yeah.
And ideally, so really, if you could put any workout into that level of intensity, truly, if you pair it in the right way, right? Because if you sit there and do 20 curls, like dumbbell curls, I'm not saying
Hmm.
that's a great exercise, not saying it's a bad exercise, whatever, 20 dumbbell curls, and then turn around and do 20 pull-ups, and then turn around and do 20 reps of a barbell bent over row, right? I'm getting into the weeds here. So if you're not someone who gets into the gym very much, just stick with me here. All of those use the same muscle groups to a certain extent. Some of them add in some different variations of it, but at the end of the day, they're all using your bicep,
Hmm.
right? You're never giving your bicep a chance to recover. As you go from move to move to move, that move is going to get weaker and weaker and weaker because your biceps just getting tired, right? And so that's where if you're going to do those, you need rest in between. So it's like, all right, I'm going to do my curls and I'm going to sit for 2 or 3 minutes, let it recover. Then I'll do my pull-ups, sit, and then I'll do my rows, right? Perfect. Cool. That's awesome. If you go ahead and say, all right, I'm going to do pull-ups and barbell squats, now you can just go back to back, never stop, right? Those workouts where you pair those things together like that, those can be super high intensity because you're not using your legs to do a pull up. So you're not like your heart might get pumped and you might say, I need to recover. Your legs don't. You can jump right into it. And so workouts like that, where you say, I have 30 minutes to get in and out of the gym, I need to hit every muscle group. Feeling with a little more carbohydrate might be the right option there to make sure you've got the energy to go back to back to back to back because doing a pull up is a challenge. That's going to challenge a lot of muscles in your body. But you can hop down and do squats right away without really having to worry about it. And so that heart gets going.
Yeah, yeah. I think to break it down, I mean, kind of the higher the intensity that workout's going to be, maybe just think about increasing the amount of carbohydrates you take prior to. And at the end of the day, depending on whether it's cardio or how hard that intensity is going to be, maybe you can throw in a little protein prior to, or just make sure you're either way you're getting protein afterward.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. I like that a lot.
Sweet, dude.
Yeah. All right.
Awesome.
Did we do it?
I think so. Anything else that you feel like we haven't touched on that you want to add in there?
I mean, there's quite a few things, but I don't want to make this too long. I
For
think
sure.
the one thing that I do want to, I'm just going to throw it out there, and this might be kind of a loose end. So if people have questions, please let us know. But when it comes to fasted workouts, there's a kind of some emerging research that like females probably shouldn't be doing too many fasted workouts compared to men, just because of the body compositions, like the makeup of the female body versus male bodies. So that's something I want to put out there, because I think there's a lot of like time restricted and like intermittent fasting stuff being out in the world. And if these individuals are trying to look for the best way to either build muscle or like get better at whatever they're doing and like recover well for the next day.
Yeah.
And they're noticing that they're kind of maybe not recovering well or feeling good by the end of the week, maybe consider adding some sort of fuel prior to that workout, especially if you're a female versus a male.
Yeah. And I think that's a great kind of transition, or not transition, but loops it back to kind of the framework, right? Of have your consistent framework. And then, because the goal is great stimulus for your body. That's the goal. And once you have that framework down, you can make little tweaks to make sure that stimulus is awesome, right? That's the number one goal. If you have awesome stimulus and you're still not meeting your goals, all right, then we can start to say, all right, what maybe makes sense in terms, if we're thinking about weight loss or whatever that might look like, right? But step one is having a great framework that's consistent of whole foods, providing awesome stimulus for your body in your workouts.
And stimulus is your workout. Yeah.
Stimulus is the workout.
Sure we're on the same page here. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so you got to fuel that stimulus to make it awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Then at that point, if you're not meeting your goals, changes might need to be made.
Yeah.
Right. So that's all. That's the first step. And there's a lot to that. So that takes practice. That takes time. But it's super impactful if you can put that stuff together and have great workouts like that.
Absolutely. Okay. That was great. Good recap.
All right.
I think we're getting the hang of this thing, man.
I think it's getting better.
The table helps.
The table definitely helps. But let us know what you think on if you have any questions on any of that. And I think with that last point that you made, it'd be really fun to try and find a guest to bring on and talk a little bit more about that. Because obviously we're two dudes, so
for sure.
I think it'd be good to have some other opinions and other viewpoints on some of that fueling your workout, maybe as a female. But with that being said, find us on Instagram, the Well-ish Podcast, and we'll see you next time.
All right.
Peace.